Hello, beautiful people. It's first thing in the morning. It's Fluid Druid here. If you want to lend me your ear, I just wanted to follow up on my post about sharing some of how I live within the magic of the world. Now, I've come to realize this is a rather difficult subject, so I'm going to do my very best. Just bear with me here. So it all started with a feeling, this restlessness inside me. Now, there's probably a good amount of you that know exactly what I'm talking about. Just trouble sleeping, unsatisfied with even the simple pleasures of life. Just dull existence. This feeling that there must be something more. It can't be all there is. I can assure you, there's more. And this video is a good place to start. A quote that has driven me often, I believe it is from the Buddha, was that a man shall quench that for which he thirsts. If he thirsts for a cup of water, he will seek out a cup and end his search once his thirst is quenched. If he thirsts for a bucket, he will seek a bucket, and so forth, a pond and an ocean, and yada yada. And the man who thirsts for the vastness of all eternity, his thirst will never be quenched, so his search will never cease. So, the question about this feeling you're having is, what is it that you thirst for? What has gone unfulfilled in your being? Now, for me personally, one of my greatest passions in this life has been martial arts and nature. But we're going to start off with martial arts. A lot of what martial arts has given me as a gift upon my journey is discipline, awareness, and the wherewithal, no pain, no gain mentality that just kind of comes with martial arts. I mean, it's a beautiful insanity that takes a person into that world where you can get punched and throw punches and go through all that just for the pursuit of a beautiful moment of perfection. When it goes from looking like silly flailing to like on the movies. It was a gratifying moment for me for sure. Weirdly, another one is video games. They played a big part in my ability to see the magic in the universe and how I got there, because every time you enter into a video game, you have to learn the rules of that reality. So you become familiar with the art of finding your place in a new universe and understanding how to interact with that world. So, another great thing about video games is the new understanding of progress you'll gain. You know, a lot of games you build skills and gain abilities based off of that and yada yada, and this world is no different. I've found that if you're willing to put the time in, there's not a darn thing you can't accomplish with your time. And that is an extremely empowering realization, because all of a sudden the only limitation on your ability is just how much time you have in the day to accomplish things. I found that rule of 10,000 hours to be very accurate. If you haven't heard of it, you can pause this video, jump over, search it up, and I'll explain it for you. So, nature. Why was nature important? Well, I grew up in the mountains out here in Canada, and there's something magical about living in the mountains. being in the woods like that every day. You become akin to different senses, which is something martial arts honed in me. Awareness of your body in ways you wouldn't be normally. Or in my case, an awareness of your awareness, which I will touch on shortly. Somewhere this blossomed was in my archery. I became aware of a feeling of instinctual sense, possibly part of truer essence in the name of a spirit, which I'll touch on later once again, but a sense of when you're gonna hit a bullseye, there's a feeling. If you've practiced some kind of, archery, shooting, anything like that, I'm sure you've experienced this sensation. When you get that perfect shot, there's a moment. And when you fire inside that moment, you take your shot, and it's just, I can't explain it. It's something you'd have to experience, but it was a very enlightening experience for me, because it was my first experience of what we call magic, because there's no other word for something like that. It's an instinct, actually, but it is, to me, magic. Like, come on, man. To know you're going to get a bullseye every time if you feel a certain way, that's pretty magical. So, a cool thing about that is how it affected my perception of the world, which is my next big important topic. And that is that perception shapes your reality. Some of you have already, touched on these subjects, others haven't. And if this is a new concept for you, I would suggest, once again, jump off my video, go onto YouTube and type in perception shapes reality. I'm sure there's lots of great videos explaining that. If you guys really want to hear it from me and my take on the whole thing, I could go more into depth, but for now I'm going to stick on topic. Perception. So a lot of people will hear this where, if you only perceive positive, the universe will only bring you positive, and yada yada yada. For me, I found that to be extremely not accurate. So I, growing up in the mountains, have had a fairly good experience of what our natural reality is like. When I go hiking, I don't go on the trail. I go in through the wilderness. I call it, the difference between going to view the nature or experiencing it. When I'm in the bush, I'm getting cut by sticks. It's not as fun as just hiking up a well-walked path. And that's true of all paths. You're going to hear me talk about paths of existence, what you choose to walk, when you're meant to walk, when you walk with others, and yada yada. And then there's also something I do often, just blazing out into the unknown, random, insane wilderness where you couldn't possibly know what's around the next corner, but I can tell you often it's something extremely beautiful. So, I can tell you that our world is not all sunshine and rainbows. Stuff dies out there, and when animals kill each other, it is ugly and nasty. So, I have a personal understanding that, there's bad stuff. It happens. Balance is one of the true laws of our universe. There's two I can really think of that are forever, and that is balance, and the unknown. You just can't. There will be things you will never be able to know. You might be able to feel it, but you'll never be able to understand it with your brain. So, when I'm talking about perception, I mean what you perceive is your reality. So, like, people who think the world is flat, they honestly think it's flat in their perception of the world. It could very well be flat, or, you know, there's probably better examples, but that's one that, you know, for all we know, if they were to go to the edge of the world, it's flat for them. I have a feeling that the global consciousness and perception of matter would not present this, which once again I will touch on shortly here. So your perception is extremely important in how the universe communicates with you, because let's be honest, if you are interacting with someone, you're a whole bunch more likely to interact with them if they're interesting and if they're doing what they're supposed to do. You have somebody who's just not where they're supposed to be, they're not in their element, you can tell typically. And then it's no different for the universe, consciousness, spirits, there's whatever you want to call it. Karma. Let's go with karma. I like karma. She's a true universal law. Balance, let's say. So, an interesting thing about perception that I think you might find a little magical, and I most certainly did, is that if you play a part in someone else's perception of the universe, their perception of you in their universe will affect actual you when you are in their presence. So if you are often around someone and you notice that you behave differently around them, which I'm sure we've all had friends that make us more outgoing, or, you know, make us more daring and risk-taking, and that's because their perception of you is of a more risk-taking and daring type. Now you're like, why is this important information? Some of you are like, wow, what is going on here? You lost me. And hey, if I lost you, like I said, jump off, touch up on some videos on perception. It's an actual thing. There's been scientific studies into it. I'm not just hooing mumble jumbo right now. It's some actual stuff that exists. So, why is it important to be aware that other people's perception affects your actual reality, your matter that makes you up? Because you want to be you. You want to be quenching your thirst with the things that make you whole for your experience in this reality. And if you surround yourself with people who are like-minded and respect and view you in the manner you wish to be viewed, you're going to find your life gets a whole bunch easier really quickly. And I've experimented with this. I invite you to as well. Go out and start meeting new people, and in that interaction, be the person you always wanted to be. Just every time you see them, you're not the person you are day to day. You're the person that you dream of being 10 years from now, in the wildest imaginations. And you'll notice something interesting. You're going to start to feel a little bit more like that person. And of course you would. You're acting like them more. You're interacting with people who are going to be more like-minded and will support you being that person. But now here's another interesting aspect of that. That is you getting out of your own way in the perception of the universe as well. So perception is its whole massive subject, which I'll probably jump in and out of as the video goes on. My next big one is awareness. So awareness is different than your perception in the manner that while I am perceiving the phone in front of me and all this stuff, I'm aware of my mind and my thoughts because I'm trying to explain a difficult perception or concept. Now, if I were to suddenly get up and start walking and stub my toe, my awareness would fly down into my foot because I'd be aware of an incredible amount of pain in my foot. Now, that is an example of shifting your awareness. And why this is important is because awareness will play a very important key in making the, jump from perceiving reality and trying to figure it out into interacting with reality, as we say, and shaping it and how you move within it and your path that you're on, so to say. So, why is awareness important? Well, we're going to start with a concept that is near and dear to me. I got it tattooed right here on my chest, and that is that your heart, unlike your mind, can't doubt itself. Now, why is that important? It's because I guarantee if you ask yourself honest questions about your life, such as, do you feel value in where you're going? Do you honestly believe certain things? You're going to feel something right here when you hear those questions. Do you really love this person? Do you really love that job? Do you really need that car? Do you want to stay where you are? You have feelings about all of these questions that you might not be aware of or even give the time of day because you're too busy perceiving and being aware of what you're perceiving. So let's just turn all that off for a sec and think of a painful memory, something that really hurt. Now in this moment, you're gonna feel something. Now don't just jump away. I know it's all of our instincts to just jump away. I want you to sit with it for a sec. But not with the thought, with the feeling. Now in this moment, you've become aware of your heart and how you're feeling. And something I like to call the heart's compass, which is the act of being aware of how you feel. Now you're probably thinking, why is this important? It's very important because if you are aware of how you feel about something, you're not going to be doubting yourself. Which is kind of what this says here is, doubt is death and love is life. And why that is because it's to remind myself that loving life is what it's all about. And to just do away with doubt. So, the heart is a powerful thing. And given alone can lead you astray. I'm sure we all remember being a teenager, maybe you're a teenager now, and powerful emotions can lead you into stupid situations. I think of the map of the mind and the compass of the heart. And the reason why I give these respective placements is because the heart will tell you how you truly and honestly feel about one direction, one choice, one thing, or many things. Where your mind will allow you to decipher the finer details, the lay of the land, so to say. I feel like they work best together. However, I feel like if you have to choose between deciding with one or the other, always regard your heart first. Because, like I said, it's going to give you an honest answer. And in the world of magic, most often than not, you are not communicating with your mind. You're communicating with your heart, with how you feel. In the occasions when I encounter or communicate with the spirits of our world, I do so with my heart and my emotions. It is a conversation of feelings, not a conversation of words. Which is one of the reasons why it's kind of difficult to explain some of these things. So, a great exercise for this is go to a bookstore. If you really want to feel the magic of following your heart's compass, do this exercise in a bookstore. Feel something painful, bring your awareness to your heart, and then let that dissipate and fall out. And focus just on that feeling, that desire to know who you are, this, it'll either come or it won't. and then follow it until you see that book that just stands out for some reason. And I guarantee you that book will be special, and it will open up a door in your world that will bring magic in its own way. Now, from personal experience, I can say keep this to yourself, because when it comes to the path whispered through your heart, no one will appreciate it and be grateful for it like you will. So honestly, I feel like it's best to keep those first few for yourself, because often people will not build the joy. And I feel like they're special. So, now that you've heard about the Heart's Compass, and if you've had that feeling, I absolutely encourage you to pursue this practice, because once you find what you're thirsty for, what you'll get up in the morning to do, what no amount of bruises will stop you from showing up to train again, you're going to start finding the value in your world you didn't even know you could feel. Which brings me to the next point that lines up with perception, which is gratitude and respect. Because a lot of people, when they hear this perception shapes reality thing, they think they're a god. And they're like, my perception is all, and that is that. In my experience, this is not the correct answer. In my experience, often that will lead you down a path of much pain, because the universe, or karma, has a cruel sense of humor, and I found that to be fairly true. And I'm sure you probably also have it. I mean, there are many sayings, and they had to have come from somewhere. So, if you've gotten this far into the video, I think we're ready to get a little bit more mystical, let's say. I mean, and feel free to question any of these things. I typically come from, lots of experience, and I have ways I can trace this stuff back and explain it further and yada, 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 yada. Anyway, here we go. So I have been gifted with dreams and conversations of past lifetimes. This has just been always a thing in my life. I've learned much. A lot of my favorite martial arts moves came from my dreams. My ability to play the flute. Some of my jewelry making techniques. My tracking abilities. Things I learned from dreams, which sounds crazy, and it is. But that's the magical world. It's an unknowable and crazy place where you kind of just gotta accept that it's a little unnatural. But this is just what we've been taught as natural. One of the terms that really exploded my brain in the magical concept was, if no one ever told you something behaved a certain way, what would you do? Now that could just be a sentence to some, and for others it unlocks the door to a world that puts breath in the lungs, that puts fire in the soul, and water in your blood. So, an interesting thing, if you want to embrace the magic in our world, is coming back to perception, and that is that respect and gratitude. Because let's say karma is an all-knowing, all-watching force, directing your life based on how you perceive it and think of it. Well, if she gives you a gift, you should most certainly expect that you will not receive another if you are not grateful. Because, I mean, look at example, if you give someone a present and they weren't grateful, you wouldn't be enticed to give them another. You'd be like, oh, okay, so this person doesn't really care. But if you give someone a present and they're just pumped up on it, they're like, oh my God, no way, you're so thoughtful, thank you so much. You're gonna be like, oh, whoa, this person it receives gifts very well. So one aspect I can guarantee you should try and solidify is recognizing the gifts that she gives and being grateful for them, because she will continue to give you more. And you'll notice also that all of the universe will unveil itself to you if you start treating them as their own beings. Sounds weird, but it's something I could expand on more. This is a video about how I live in the magic of the universe. I'm just trying to open up the doors for you. If you guys want to hear more about any certain thing, just drop me a little comment down there and let me know. Give me a quick sec here. I'll think if I have missed anything. Yes, actually there is. The Heart's Compass and the bookstore. For me personally, when I really started to listen, and to this day, when I really listen to my heart's voice, it could take me on the most crazy adventures you would ever imagine. An exercise I used to do often is I would let the wind decide my day. I'd go out walking and just literally let the wind blow me around, and it took me on the craziest adventures you'd ever freaking imagine. It sounds like the most random thing, but for me, that was one. A rustle of branches while you're thinking a thought could be enough of a sign to decipher my next movement. And putting your faith into the universe in that heavy a manner and walking a path that full of faith will bring magic and enrichment that you could only imagine. So I actually fully encourage, please go and try and follow your heart. Get out into the woods and just get out of your brain. Bring your awareness into your feet. Practice bringing respect into that place and being grateful for embracing you and showing you a little bit of relief from the hecticness that can be our indoor lives and day-to-day existence. I'm sure some of you, like me, know how grateful you can be for just a moment of peacefulness out on a walk through a park or something. If you've got this far, thank you so much for listening. Please leave me some comments or something. I've never done videos like this before. Typically, I try and keep all this mystical stuff to myself. Have a great day, you guys, and thanks for listening. Bye.